going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of The Jump, a midweek update as we look forward to Week 6, coming off of Week 5, which was incredible. So, an amazing week last week. Now, for the casual fan, you would think it's maybe a little bit of a come down, but there's some good games, really good games, very important games this week that I definitely need to talk about. But before that, a few other news and things to talk about. So, Sam Pittman got fired. I mentioned that in the recap episode from Week 5. Here we are. Bobby Petrino is back at Arkansas. Now, it's easy to give the pitch of like, man, it worked here once before. Like, sure, you can talk about Darren McFadden. You can talk about all that. I don't know if that's necessarily what it's going to be because Arkansas says that they're going to do a national search. I'll miss Sam Pittman. I thought he was great for the sport. I thought he had he was a character. All that I've ever heard about him is that he's an amazing guy. So, best wishes to Sam Pittman. I think his buyout was maybe $9 million. So he's gonna be doing okay. Probably gonna have a few cold beers, but Bobby Petrino's back. Petrino is back in Arkansas, and maybe the most famous college football picture is him in the neck brace. That's exactly what we got to see a lot of this weekend when he got named. That he was the interim, but he got straight to work. He fired 3 coaches already. And I think he thinks this is his thing. And that's what's ironic about this. Like when he got hired as the OC, everybody was like, dude, Sam Pittman's already on the hot seat. I think he's trying to work his way back in to be the head coach of Arkansas. Here we are. You get Rich Rod at West Virginia and Scott Frost at UCF. Like there's some around the country where there's been some returns. And Mac Brown recently when he goes to UNC, like there's been somewhere they just go back. I don't know if this one's necessarily going to work, but I think Arkansas should do a national search, and I don't think they should go back to Bobby Petrino. Just my opinion. I think they could get some big names. The one that I've said for a long time is Rhett Lashlee. Now, SMU hasn't been incredible this year, to say the least, but I think it'd be a good hire. It's a young, up-and-coming coach that has a chance to be special in this sport. One name I've also seen is Dion because of the Jerry Jones connection where he played for the Cowboys, Jerry Jones. I don't know if it was necessarily legit or not, but they talked about maybe hiring Dion for the Cowboys before they hired Schottenheimer this past coaching carousel. So maybe Dion's a name that they could get. Other than that, I think there's a lot on the table. I think there's a lot of names. Bobby Petrino's a legit candidate for the job, and it's wild to say that in 2025 that he is a legit shot. So comment below who you think they'll end up hiring or who they should hire because there's a lot of good ones out there. This is a fun job where you're going to be in the SEC. You get SEC money. You also get a ton of money from Jerry Jones, from Tyson. You've got the resources. In Arkansas is a state where there's not pro teams. That's a state where Arkansas is the pro team. Like that, you'll get the buy-in, all this good stuff. It's a very intriguing job, to say the least. More so than Virginia Tech and UCLA. So, the out of the openings so far, this is certainly the biggest one, and I kind of hope Arkansas goes and makes a big splash with this coaching carousel. Moving on, the AP poll came out. Not a ton of changes, but there are 2 big notes. So, Vanderbilt, they were obviously ranked last week, but they're still in the portal. Or not in the portal. They're still in the poll at 16 this week. Virginia checks in at 24. But the interesting part of that, Vanderbilt and Virginia are ranked in the AP Top 25 in the same week for the first time since October 20th, 1947. It's been a little bit. Number 16 ranked for Vanderbilt is the highest ranking that they've had since 2008. And then 24 for the Cavaliers is the highest ranking that they've had since 2019. So those 2 teams, big shout out to them. Obviously, Florida State dropped down to 18. So that makes it not a top 10 matchup with Miami, which I think a lot of us were rooting for. Still be a really good game. I'm excited for that one. But game day goes to 10 versus 16, Alabama and Vanderbilt. So we'll talk about those games here in a little bit. But the move around, Miami was 2. They're on a bye. Oregon gets the Penn State win. They jump to 2. So not a ton of a shake-up here. Penn State falls to 7. It somewhat stayed the same. I think LSU was 5 or 4. They dropped to 13. And Ole Miss jumps all the way up to 4. So some movement, but like there wasn't a ton necessarily. And TCU, where they were ranked last week, Arizona State beats them. Arizona State gets back in there at 25, and BYU 23. They've been absolutely rolling all year, so they've been great. So the top 25, I completely agree. I don't think there's necessarily a team that's left off as of right now, or I don't disagree with these rankings. Like every week, I feel like I've had a take about some. I think the one that's going to be interesting when we get to the end of the year will be Oklahoma, where they're up to 5 now with John Mateer out. They're going to have a couple difficult ones, but even when he's back, it's going to be a very difficult schedule. So I think they'll be a lot lower than 5, but when it's all said and done for sure. But yeah, some sneaky games for some of these teams in the top 25. And like I said, this is a learning week, big time learning week across the country. Before I get into the games next week, I'll do my Heisman Top 10. So I'll put this out Monday when you guys are watching this. So I'll go through these real quick. 10, Ruben Bain Jr. This is the first defensive guy I've had on the list this year. I wanted to get him on sooner, but it was just I couldn't put him over a few of the guys that I'd already had on there. So he's at 10. Trinidad Chambliss out of Ole Miss. I've wanted to have him on here for a little bit. He's been barely off. This year, he has 1,219 total yards and 7 touchdowns and 3 starts. Arkansas, 353 passing, 62 rushing. Against Tulane, he had 307 passing, 112 rushing. And then against number 4, LSU, he had 314 passing and 71 rushing. Dude has been absolutely balling out. Like I said, he's just a winner, champion at Ferris State. And, yeah, he's continuing to just impress for the Rebels. Julian Sand at 8, his first appearance on there for me, but I think he looked absolutely incredible. And I talked about in the recap video where he didn't even necessarily have to do a whole lot. Like, they didn't necessarily open the game up a whole lot. They didn't open the playbook a ton. And what he's being able to do in these games where they don't necessarily have a great running game, where I thought C.J. Donaldson, the West Virginia transfer, would be a little bit better. Bo Jackson is the one that's kind of stood out of the running back room, but there's not necessarily a great rushing attack. Far from what they had last year. With Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. So what he's been able to do is impressive. He obviously has great weapons, but he's looked the part. He's looked amazing. So Julian Sand at 8. Bo Pabula at 7. They were off this past week, but Missouri's got a legit shot to be a playoff team when it's all said and done. He has been amazing. There was also a lot of Penn State fans that were a little disappointed and a little upset with College Game Day for doing the QB comparisons, where Bo's been much better than Drew Aller. So it's been a great year for Bo. He's obviously got one of the best running backs in all of college football with Ahmad Hardy by his side, but he's looked amazing, and I'm excited to see what they can do going forward into SEC play. Jeremiah Smith at 6th. He's a controversial one just because people were like, I guess they're expecting him to do more. He's being guarded by every team's best DB and still putting up great numbers. Played good at Washington. He just continues to impress. He's super, super consistent, and he's been amazing. Marcel Reed, A&M, they only won 16-10, but that doesn't necessarily tell the story of the game because he had an offense clicking. The yards difference, if you go look at that, it was, let me see if I can find that real quick, because it needs to be said that like the 16-10 doesn't necessarily tell the story of the game in that one, because A&M was moving that thing, and they were Marcel Reed played really good in that one. They had 414 yards, A&M did, to 177 for Auburn. And Marcel Reed had 207, only 7 incompletions, and he was great. He was moving the ball. I think he's doing it, and they have a chance to be really good this year and maybe win the SEC when it's all said and done. Fernando Mendoza at 4. I dropped him, but that's not even his fault. He looked good. It's just I dropped him below Beck because I was a little disappointed in Mendoza. He didn't play a bad game against Iowa by any means, but I was expecting a little bit more offense in that one maybe. Like if this is a high-power firing team, Mendoza's got to do a little bit more. So he's at 4, Carson Beck at 3. So they were on a bye. Now they get the Florida State game. We'll get to see a lot more of him going forward into the ACC. And if they beat Florida State, ACC may just be a one-bid league, and we'll see what it looks like from there. And then 1 and 2, these two are just the ones that had the best week, but I also already had them on the list it just jumped them up quite a bit because of what they did and how they looked in the places they did. Ty Simpson at 2, going into Sanford Stadium is not easy, and then performing the way that he did, with how efficient he is, with the plays he makes, incredible game. And I think he's very deserving of the 2 spot. Then Dante Moore, number 1. Absolute, crazy performance to be able to walk into a whiteout and treat it like it's nothing. It was just amazing. So Dante Moore was incredibly impressive. He was making sidearm throws, all of this against a defense that will be really good all year in Penn State. And he was able to just command this game. He took over the game every single third down. He used his legs, he used his arm, and like I said in the recap video, he's not even listed as a dual threat, but he's become a dual threat because he just makes plays. He's a gamer. Very, very deserving of the number 1 spot, in my opinion. Moving on to the Week 6 games, Week 6 matchups. Exciting week, like I said, learning week. Big time learning week. There is a game that I would probably rather eat a cake one ingredient at a time. I would rather watch paint dry and grass grow than watch the thought of this game, but I will still watch this. Texas, Florida. 3:30. Texas at Florida. Arch Manning versus DJ Lagway. 2 guys that were supposed to be Heisman hopefuls. 2 of the best quarterbacks in all of college football going into the year. And here they are. A whole lot of picks. Not a whole lot of substance with it. Texas is a much, much better team. Florida still has an elite defense. We'll see what Arch can do. He has another chance against an elite defense to show himself. And yeah, like I said, the thought of this game, you'd rather do a whole lot of things than watch this. But I'm intrigued because it's Arch against a good defense. Fired up to see. He played the Ohio State defense, which is probably the best defense in college football. Performed horribly. Now he's got another chance with a few games under his belt, where you can say the same thing with Ty Simpson, where first game, not a great outing. He still wasn't bad in the Florida State game, but now he's got a few games under his belt where he's played some easier opponents, goes on the road to Georgia, plays well. So that's going to be a fun one. Then game day, Vanderbilt at Alabama, where Ty Simpson has already said we're not going to make that mistake again. He's talking that talk. Diego Pavia with the points, man. I think it's a 10.5 point spread right now. Vanderbilt's definitely live in this one, but I like Alabama. I'm excited for this one because we get to learn a lot about both. Because I said in the reaction video that both of these teams are legit SEC title contenders. And Diego Pavia, I haven't been disrespecting him. I just haven't had him on my list yet. This is kind of the type of game I've been waiting on to see if he is a Heisman guy. If he's gonna be that type of guy. So I'm excited for this one. Obviously, it's the payback for Alabama, payback for Kalen DeBoer. He's got to get that lick back. But Alabama at home, they haven't lost a whole lot at home under DeBoer. So they haven't lost at all at home under DeBoer. It's just been road. So I'm excited for this one. Very excited. Also at 3:30, Virginia, newly ranked, going to Louisville. Louisville is going to win this game. I'm calling it now. This is the classic letdown spot, I think, if you're Virginia, where they're coming off this high, one of the best wins that they've had, and I just don't see it. Like I said, Chandler Morris he's gonna make plays in this game where we're gonna be like, oh my gosh, this guy the greatest quarterback we've ever seen, and then he's also gonna go out and have some terrible plays, and I think that's gonna be the difference where Louisville against a top 25 team is scary. We've seen what they've done against Notre Dame, Wake Forest, when they would come in with Sam Hartman. There's been very, very, very good teams come into Louisville and lose. Now, I just don't see this game being super close. I don't know what the line is right now. I'm trying to find that. It's the 3:30. It's Louisville 6.5. I think I might take Louisville spread there. That one might get ugly. They're just going to put it that way. I'm not even doubting in Virginia. I think it's just a classic letdown spot. Boise State at Notre Dame. 3:30. Boise hasn't necessarily looked horrible this year, but I like Notre Dame big in this one. Not necessarily going to be a game that I think I'll make a pick for. But I'm excited for it because you'll get to kind of see like Notre Dame continue to roll, and I hope they can cover the spread in this one and show the offense is going to be like this all year, where the Arkansas game wasn't just like, oh, Arkansas is just a horrible defense and we just did it because of that. I hope it's because Notre Dame is absolutely legit, and we'll get to see that in this one. Washington and Maryland. This one is at 3:30 as well. The 3:30 slate is loaded. But this game, I'm excited for a few different reasons. So Washington's obviously, they got to bounce back. And, they're going to have to go 3 time zones over or whatever and end up, playing a good, undefeated Maryland team who's 4-0 right now. They obviously they haven't played a great schedule. They've played Florida Atlantic, Northern Illinois, Towson, and then Wisconsin. This is the first real test. Their freshman Malik Washington. Malik Washington is the best freshman nobody's talking about. He's their quarterback, 5-star kid, absolutely dealing. He's been awesome this year. So I'm excited for that one because we're going to learn a lot because like the bounce back from Washington, which I think Washington's going to win this game. I don't know if they'll necessarily destroy them or anything, but this is a game where you'll get to learn a whole lot, where Loxley, he's a big locker room guy over there at Maryland, and we'll get to see if they can kind of hold, because Washington is like as close to a ranked team, I think, as you can get. They're right there. Obviously, if they beat Ohio State, they would have been, but they hung in there. Good ball game. So that one's going to be fun, 3:30, as well as the others. Michigan State and Nebraska, this is another just learning experience. It's a 4 o'clock game. With it being at Nebraska, I expect Nebraska to go in there and show who they are. But this is one of those games for Nebraska where I said in the preseason, they have a pretty easy schedule, so they could be the team that kind of just gets in because of their schedule. They obviously have the Michigan loss. They're not in an incredible spot, but this game is a start. So, I mean, Michigan State's got an incredible offense. They're going to be able to move the ball, and they'll put up points and all that. So we'll get to see what this Nebraska team is truly made of. Texas Tech and Houston. This one doesn't necessarily sound amazing because it's the number 11 Texas Tech team against an underrated Houston. But if you haven't paid attention, Willie Fritz has this Houston team looking incredible. 4-0 right now with a win over Colorado, 2 weeks ago. And then this past week, they knocked off Oregon State in a close one out in Corvallis. But Connor Wegman's looked good, the Texas A&M transfer. He's looked good for them. I'm excited to see what Houston's able to do. Competing against the Texas Tech team, that's definitely legit. We've seen them play really good competition and battle, and they even beat Utah, who's continued to roll after that one. Minnesota and Ohio State, this one isn't going to be super close. But Minnesota, I had a narrative about them, like, going into the year, like, this is going to be one of those teams, like, PJ Fleck's just going to have his guys rolling. They're sitting at 3-1 right now. They lost to Cal. That was a late game where Jerron Chiave, Sangapulatelli, like, he played really well. That was kind of like his coming out party in a way, where it was a late game out on the West Coast, but then they beat a good Rutgers team last week. So I think this one will be a good test, good measuring stick for Minnesota, where we're going to find out a lot about who they are as a middle-of-the-pack type of team while they're traveling to the shoe and get to play the best team in the country. This one I didn't expect to be a great game going into the year, but now that we're here, we're looking at a almost ranked matchup. They're not ranked, but you could argue it could be. Mississippi State, Texas A&M. This one's going to be fun. This one, Mississippi State is legit. Like I know that's not a bold take because they've looked apart, but they have looked really, really good. That offense is amazing. They're almost going to be out-talented in like every single game that they play. But Jeff Lebby has these boys clicking, and they are going to be hanging in there with this Mississippi State team, or with this Texas A&M team. At Kyle Field, 7:30, night game. I still expect them to hang in there. Let me see what the spread of this one is, because this one could be one to watch. It's a Texas A&M 2-touchdown spread. Now, Mississippi State's defense isn't incredible, but I think Mississippi State will hang in there in this one. And then Miami and Florida State, also 7:30 at Doak Gamble. Miami is a 4.5-point favorite. This is going to tell us a lot about both of these teams, where if Florida State gets rolled, Florida State's kind of out of the ACC race in a way. I mean, Duke's still up there, Louisville's up there. Like they're not going to be in a great spot. We'll just put it that way. But Miami, we'll get to see if they deserve that number 3 by their name. Like you can really make arguments for their games where it's Notre Dame and you're like, all right, man, like they've proven to not be incredible anyways. And you could say Florida's not very good. They played them close. All the talk, we'll get to see. We know Florida State is good. Number 3 versus number 18. This one's gonna be awesome for the night slate. So those will be fun. One I'm excited for that's kind of just under the radar. Duke at Cal over the weekend. This one, I could see either team win. It's gonna be a late game. It's a 10:30 kickoff Eastern. But these are two teams in the ACC that have a legit dark horse chance to make it. They could both make it. Like a California team that's 4-1. Their one loss is San Diego State. They had a good win last week in a close one where JKS made a great play late to help them get the lead in that one, where they're sitting there 4-1, undefeated in the ACC play. Duke's sitting there at 3-2 with the big win over Syracuse, and their 2 losses are out of conference, so they have a legit shot to go. And Mensa has been good for them, but that's kind of the one to watch late that I think will be kind of what last week's Colorado BYU one was. That's going to be the one this week where you need to tune in and see what we've got. So I'm excited for this week's slate. Hope you guys are as well. Like I said, it's a learning week, big time learning week. Like, yeah, you don't have the massive marquee top 10 matchups like you did last week, and the big brands aren't colliding, but we're about to get fully into conference play, and we'll get to learn a lot about these teams as they're in their last few without it, and as they're getting straight into it. So thank you for tuning in. Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the college football this weekend. I'll be back this weekend. Peace.